Hello, everybody. Alison McWhinney again, trustee, the Confederation of Healing Organisations. And today I'm talking again with our Chief Executive, Sue Knight, and we will be discussing what can you expect when you go for a healing appointment. Now, there are a number of different ways you can receive healing in person, and they include at a healing organisation, through a sole practitioner, and also at an event. Sue, would you like to start off with what they can expect if someone books a healing appointment with a practitioner?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So basically, what I'd like to say, first of all, is one doesn't have to be ill to receive healing.
Absolutely.
No, it's actually a very beneficial therapy for anyone's well-being in the end. So what to expect? You will have made an appointment. Specifically, when you go see a practitioner, that will quite honestly be by telephone or by email, I would imagine, or through somebody's website or Facebook page or whatever. So you're going to have made an appointment, which is a little bit different than you would through a healing centre or whatever. So you can expect a nice, calm, serene space to walk into. At least I would hope you could expect that. That's certainly what most practitioners will be trying to do, trying to make that nice space. You will probably be asked to turn off your mobile phone, or at least have it on airplane mode or whatever, so you haven't got any distractions, because you're there for yourself. You're there to have a bit of me time, and that's important. So don't have your phones going all the time. That's going to be a complete distraction. So first of all, the practitioner will find out a little bit about you, about your background. And by that, I mean, what you've come for. As I said, you don't have to be ill, but if there's something specific that you want to mention, then that's the time to do it. And the practitioner will then take a few notes about that. They will take notes, for instance, of the date that you came and your name and your contact details and that kind of thing. And also very often it's about your GP, in case something went wrong and they had to contact your GP. And if you had, if the practitioner had your permission, that they could contact the GP, make that contact and say that you're receiving healing, or they would encourage you to say that you're receiving healing to your practitioner, your GP. Sometimes you will be guided into a little visualization, short meditation type thing. Sometimes you will be sat in a chair, so you'll be seated rather than on a couch, but most practitioners will heal from a couch in a private session, this is. So you'll be laying on a nice couch. If you find laying down difficult, as I say, you can sit up, or you can perhaps have cushions and pillows under your knees and all that kind of thing. They'll make you comfortable, so you tell them what you expect to be there to make you feel comfortable. There's no need to remove any clothes. Maybe a top coat, because that's going to make you feel more at ease. And often, obviously, on a couch, you'll very often take your shoes off. Most of the time, take your shoes off. And even when you're seated, some people like to take their shoes off because it helps them to feel a bit more grounded. And maybe also they might ask you to remove your watch. And that's nothing weird and wonderful. It's just that some watches, Fitbits, etc., thinking about the fact that they can slightly alter the energies, the healing energies. So most practitioners will touch you lightly on the shoulders to start and finish. They may not. They will always ask permission to touch if you're okay. And also they'll establish where it's okay to touch you, because they're not going to be touching you in any intimate places. But it's obviously there may be reasons why you don't want to be touched in a certain area. You might not like your head touched. You may have just had your hair done at the hairdressers or whatever. It's down to you. And some healers will work by contact and go around the body. They may just stay on your shoulders, or they may work a few inches around the body, sort of in the auric field. And as I say, sometimes there'll be music playing, so it's a nice relaxing area. Sometimes you may have been guided into a little visualization just to feel relaxed. You might feel tingling. You might feel, and when I say tingling, it's nothing nasty. It's just
No.
It's like a little bit of a buzz around the circuitry, as it were. You might feel some heat from the healer's hands. You might feel cold from the healer's hands. I don't know, you may see colours. Anything else you can think of that?
You may fall asleep.
You may. Oh, yes, please do. Just, that way we know that you're really relaxed. And also, a good healer will always have a box of tissues at the ready, because very often clients can feel tearful about something, because we've talked about this before. But when you're having healing, it's very often like removing those layers of the onion, and that healing energy will get to the root of something, and it might bring up all sorts of emotions. It's not going to be an unpleasant experience. It's going to be a safe space for you to be able to share if you wish to. But
Exactly.
Again, you don't have to. But you know that you're in that safe space.
And it's healing in itself, I think, to offload and to cry if you need to, rather than just store all that up inside you. It's
Absolutely.
much healthier. And as healers, we see this happen so many times. So it's nothing to feel awkward about, that you burst into tears or anything like that. We see it so many times. And it's actually a good sign that you're releasing. So it's part of the healing process as well.
And especially, may I add, for men.
Yes, absolutely.
They're often brought up with not showing their emotions. And actually, it's really important that they have that to be able to do so. And don't feel embarrassed about it, because a healer's not going to feel embarrassed about it.
No.
It's somewhere to be able to let go, basically. So you're going to talk about different settings in a minute, but also, of course, with a practitioner, there's often payment involved. Now, some people will do it by donation, give healing by donation. Some people will make a charge, and obviously the best thing to do is to establish how much they charge at the beginning, when you're making that first appointment, so that you're prepared for it. And often you can pay by bank transfer or by card. Some people will take card payments, or by cash. And often in a healing sanctuary or a drop-in centre or something like that, it's cash. It tends to be cash. I'm going to ask you now, because you used to work at Harry Edwards Healing Sanctuary, didn't you?
I did, and I trained there. I did my healer training there as well.
So how does healing take place there in a healing sanctuary?
So I think one of the differences is that when you make your appointment for healing, it will actually go to a team of reception people, rather than the healer direct. And they will make the booking for you, and you can contact them by phone, by email, through the website. And the healer will come and collect you from reception and take you to a designated healing room. And at the Harry Edwards Healing Sanctuary, there are 2 designated healing rooms that have a chair and also a bed as well, a healing couch. And the session will start off with, particularly for a first session, the healer getting to know you a bit and why you're there. And if you are experiencing any illness, whether you've seen your doctor, your consultant, and where things are at that stage. I would re-emphasize that you don't have to be ill in order to benefit from healing, because one of the things that healing does is induce a really relaxed state that is extremely useful to help your own body remain well, in actual fact. And particularly if you're going through a stressful time, which can lead to illness, it helps kind of autocorrect that. But certainly the sort of healer will ask you questions about your health and why you're there. If somebody is ill, healing is never a replacement for going to see your doctor and keeping up those appointments and keeping up your appointments with your specialist, your consultant, it's always complimentary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, it's actually very useful for the healer when the client has the tests that medical people will do and where there is real improvement that is being shown by tests. So it's not just our imagination, but clinical tests done by the medical team can show sort of how things are progressing. So the healer will often ask, have you received healing before? And do you know what to expect? And if the answer is no, they will go through what will happen. And they're given a choice of whether they want it in the chair or on the couch, and a choice of whether they want hands off or hands on. Again, it's usually just overcoats that are removed, sometimes shoes as well. But if people want to keep their shoes on, that's fine too. And the healer will start off by making the client as comfortable as possible, which will include sometimes a little roll um, under your knees, which can be particularly useful if you've got back issues and you're lying flat down. I find those really, really comfortable. And the healer will ask whether you'd like music or not. At the sanctuary, their healing rooms are right by a rose garden that has a fountain. So whenever I've had a healing appointment there myself, I actually love on a summer's day to listen to the sound of the water in the fountain and
Oh,
find
lovely.
that so relaxing. So I always
Mm,
go for that choice. But it is all about your relaxation and you feeling totally relaxed.
mm,
Um, once that is sorted, the healer will then get themselves into the correct state for healing. So they will think of grounding themselves, centering themselves, making sure that they themselves are in the right state and focused on your healing
mm.
and not thinking about the shopping list they've got to do. So it's all about getting the intention right and the focus right, and then they will attune to source for the energy to flow through them and to the client. So the healing energy is not from the healer themselves. We're a channel for that, and we get our healing energy from source, comes through us, and then to the client. We will start with our hands on the client's shoulders, as you mentioned before, Sue. And we then do a chakra scan, just picking up energies
Mm,
from each of the chakras, starting right at the top of the head and working our way down all the chakras. And then at Harry Edwards, we would systematically go round the body from sort of joint to joint, really, starting on the client's right hand side and starting shoulder to elbow to wrist to hand
mm.
to hip to knee to ankle to foot. And then
Yeah.
do the same on the left hand side as well. And then finishing off by sort of holding both feet to ground.
Mm,
Sometimes the healer will go to a particular area. So healers can be very sensitive about picking up energy where something feels slightly different. So sometimes as a healer, we might pick up that an area is hot or an area is cold on the client, or we just get a sense that that area needs a little bit more attention. So we might go back to a particular area if we feel that is necessary before finishing the healing session off. Many people do fall asleep during healing appointments. And again, I always feel I've done my job well if somebody falls asleep on me.
mm.
So I always take that as a compliment, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about, even if you do snore. We've seen all that before. Um, and we will finish the appointment off just by gently touching your right shoulder and inviting you to come back into the room when you feel ready to do so. So, a lot of people are in an incredibly relaxed state by this point, and so they can't just leap off the bed, and it would be very unwise for them to do so. So, we allow them to lie there for as long as they need to, and then gently ease them off the couch and going back to the chair to sit down if they need to take a few moments before they leave the session. We also offer water
Indeed. Yeah.
because that's always a
Mm,
good thing as well after a healing session. and sort of ask them how they're feeling.
Well, yeah, we have to make sure they're grounded, don't we, before
Yes, absolutely, before you send them back out, and must make sure they're okay. Um, at the sanctuary, they have a distant healing list, so anybody who goes to them for a contact healing will be automatically put on the distant healing list for a month after their healing appointment. And people are invited to make further appointments. Quite often, if there is a particular condition, it will take several healing appointments to get to a sort of really much better place, along with any treatment that they're receiving. It would be unusual that everything would happen in one appointment. So quite often you are looking at a series of appointments. And it's useful for the healers to know what progress you're making as well, and what is happening after that healing appointment.
And of course, sometimes we talked about not being ill, etc. But of course, sometimes people are terminally ill, and it's still
Yes,
really, really good to receive healing, isn't it? Because
yes,
it can help them. It can help them on their pathway,
absolutely.
make their transition, to make them feel at peace, etc. And also, of course, for carers, people who are looking after them, it's really, really helpful.
Very important. And I think with the people who are terminally ill, we got quite a lot of those at the sanctuary.
Mm,
They found the talking at the start of the healing appointment particularly helpful,
mm,
because sometimes they felt that if they offloaded to family, they were adding to their burden, because
yeah.
family are obviously very caught up in that situation and very upset by that situation as well. And sometimes talking to a healer can be really helpful offloading, but also sometimes that the healing can help help reduce the side effects of some of the medications that people are on. We got that feedback quite a bit. It just made things a lot easier, and it helped them to relax as well. Carers, you mentioned a really good point there. So carers, incredibly stressful time for
Mm.
carers. I've been one myself. And it's important that their health is looked after as well, and we look after them. And getting some relaxation time and me time in for them is incredibly important too.
Yeah, indeed. I think really, something like that, a healing centre is very much the same as a drop-in centre or a spiritualist church. They do things much the same, often by donation rather than fee as such.
Yes,
Imagine the Harry Edwards is by donation, isn't it?
Harry Edwards is by donation. Yes.
And then, of course, we have events. So, for instance, the CHO, in collaboration with Mind Body Spirit Limited, has a large stand at the Mind Body Spirit event in November every year. We call it Aspects of Healing. And it's where people can come along and basically learn. There's all sorts of information about healing. We have really, really brilliant presentations on the stand. People come along and speak for 20 minutes or so. And there's sort of little drop-in workshops and that kind of thing. And people can come along and can ask questions about healing of any of us on the stand, or they can receive a little taster session of healing. And it's just a little bit different in that sort of setting. Again, you're met by somebody else, and you make your booking on a sheet normally at an event. And then you're introduced to the healer who's going to give you healing. But it's a very obviously the feeling around you is going to be very different because you're in a busy event. But
Yes.
you'll be surprised when you receive healing at something like that from an experienced healer. It'll just melt into the background. All the noise that's going on will just melt into the background, and you hear it, but it doesn't matter, because you're somewhere else. You're in that very safe space with that healing practitioner, and it's about giving you that little bit of me time within a busy situation like that. Also, very often getting people to think about the fact that actually they need to think about perhaps bringing their energies up and being able to be guided into that by the healing practitioner, just so that they are not affected by all the weird and wonderful energies that might be around them at an event like that. And certainly you think about something like sort of Glastonbury Festival or something on the healing field or something like that, you know, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of stuff that could affect you. But having a healing session by an experienced practitioner will certainly help you deal with that. So yeah, if anybody wants to put that in their diaries, look up the MBS in November every year, the MBS show, Mind Body Spirit show every year. And we'll be there November at the NEC in Birmingham on our Aspects of Healing stand, and come along and have a taster session. And again, we don't charge for it as such. Yes, we encourage people to make donations because we're a charity, but we don't charge as such. So yeah, it's a really good introduction to healing. That's what it's about, and all kinds of healing, including different complementary therapies, because they're all healing banner.
Yeah,
I think that kind of wraps it up for me. I don't think I have anything else to say about it. I think that's given people enough of an idea, hasn't it?
I think I would just end on that healing will not harm you in any way. So if you've never had a healing appointment before at all, either in a healing centre or with a practitioner or at an event, it certainly won't harm you, and it's likely to really help in a number of ways. It's not painful at all. It won't hurt you. And it's a really relaxing experience that certainly I would thoroughly recommend, both as a healer and somebody who's experienced healing themselves.
Certainly worth a try.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Lovely chatting to you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.